Okay, great. So I am Rebecca Wright, Chair of Computer Science here at Barnard. And thank you for coming to our CS seminar. We're very excited to have Dr. Lauren Bricker with us today. Lauren is a teaching faculty at the Allen School in the University of Washington. She joined there 9 years ago after being a middle school and high school teacher for a decade and working in industry prior to that. She has academic backgrounds in CS education, HCI, computer graphics, and computational fabrication, but has really been fulfilled providing support for students in the STARS and Allen Scholars programs, which is what she's going to talk to us about today. She received an undergraduate teaching award from the Allen School in 2025 and has been recognized as one of 3 GeekWire STEM educators in 2021, as well as being a featured Geek of the Week, and is also a representative of University of Washington to the Computer Science Teachers Association Board of Directors, of which she was also past president of the Washington chapter. So, Lauren, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And again, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate all you taking time out of your day and coming to see this talk, which I know you saw this title is Thriving, Not Surviving. And I'm going to talk about student support for the Allen School, the Allen Scholars and the STARS program. But really, got to click in the right place. Originally, this was critical talk entitled Critical Inclusivity, but really I'm talking about radical inclusivity. So those are sort of the under the radar titles for this talk. Okay, don't know why that is selected, but okay. So what am I going to do is I'm going to talk about 2 undergraduate programs, the Allen Scholars and STARS. STARS students who are going into the Allen School that support computer science and engineering students entering our program. I'm going to explore it both from the student perspective as well as the staff and advising perspective. But before I go on, I want to just sort of explain that currently, currently computer science is in the College of Engineering, which is not necessarily the case in other colleges and university. STARS students, which STARS is a 2-year program, they can either go into College of Engineering or the Allen School. Allen Scholars go into the Allen, or direct admit to the Allen School. There are STARS E students that go into engineering program. About 50% of the students in the Allen School are direct admit to the Allen School, meaning as they apply to the University of Washington, they've checked a box that said they're interested in computer science. They go into that. In 2018, that was 4%. So we made some major changes even since I've been there. This year, the direct admit students are 80% of them are from Washington State. We are a public institution. And so we have a duty to serve the students who are coming in from Washington State. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the demographic of the students. It's a large state R1 institution. The Seattle campus has 35,000 undergrads, about 5,400 in the College of Engineering, and 2,000 in the Paul Allen School. A lot of the students in this program, they are all Washington State residents. In these 2 programs. They are majority low-income first-generation students who are from the less well-served schools in Washington State. A lot of them, a significant number of them are from the eastern side of the state, which is the rural side of the state. And again, students that are not College of Engineering, they are to the Allen School. A lot of them are also commuter students. They are supporting family. They have to work 1 or more jobs. They've got a lot of contention for their time. I want to start by also talking about some open questions that I have. And like I said, I'm going to sort of power through some descriptions of these programs and some of the results that we've seen. It's going to go kind of fast, but I kind of want to get to these questions. Like, what are the core components that's the big thing. Is like, what are the core components that support students so that they can survive in a college and university settings? What are some of the similarities and differences at different institutions for similar students? And then As we're having to rename and reframe our work, as we're losing money because of financial challenges, what are some of the things that we can continue to do in terms of supporting students in this time of financial challenges? So kind of keep those in mind as we go along, okay? All right, but before I begin, I am a teacher. Let's start with a warm-up. What percentage of college students who enter college, so in other words, they're applying as high school students, say that they're intending to study an engineering degree, actually complete that degree? So this is where I open it up and you get to guess.
You mean across all colleges?
All engineering, computer science, yeah.
I would say 70%.
70%?
No, I would say much less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pick a number.
55.
55,
Less than 50.
less than 50. Anybody else?
40.
These are the ones who actually enter, though. They do start college.
They start college.
Yeah.
They're like, as they're entering college, they're thinking, I want to be an engineer. How many actually?
That's
I'm going to say 30 because often they get asked like a couple different options.
Yeah.
So they do one of the other options.
It's a very low number.
Okay. So it turns out, and this is ASEE data from 2017. I was trying to find some more recent, but I'm sure the pandemic has also sort of thrown some wrenches in there. The 4-year graduation rate is 30%. I think that's what you said. And then who said 55? Yeah, there you go. 6-year is 55. And then
Do they, when you say complete engineering, would they complete something else like a?
some complete a different degree, and some, they basically change their major, and then others may not even complete a degree at all, right? So it's a little uncertain from the data that I had. And then historically at the University of Washington, it's been about 50%. This may have changed a little bit once they went to the direct admit model, but still about 50%. Oops, and I forgot to, okay. So there are a lot of barriers to entry. If you're a first generation or low income student from underserved communities, it's actually 25% at the University of Washington with no assistance. They also, generally, these students have trouble getting into the degree because of the poor preparation. Now, here's a picture of Washington State. There are a few things you may notice here. There's like clusters of places. This is where students have access to computing in high school. Okay, so I'm kind of shifting focus a little bit to focus on computing, but so there's the chunk that's in the Puget Sound area, which is where Seattle is. There's another small chunk down at the bottom, here down at the bottom. That's actually Vancouver, Washington, which is very close to Portland. There's this little chunk out to the east, which is Spokane, which is the other big city in Washington State. And then over here is down the bottom middle is sort of the Yakima Valley, very rich agricultural farmland, but also the Pacific Northwest National Lab is there. And so they've been very supportive. It turns out in the 2024-25 school year, only 51% of the high schools offered some sort of foundational computer science. That was actually up. It's been steadily growing, although I think we're going to see a serious decline in the next couple of years. About 17% of the students in the graduating senior class have had some sort of computing. I did look up New York State. It's about 50% for public high schools that have foundational CS, but that's down from 52% according to the data that I found from code.org. But only 3.1% are participating. So what it means to have access is really kind of complicated. And I've looked for Massachusetts and California too, and it's all over the map, literally. Eve Riskin, who used to help run the STARS program, your zip code shouldn't determine whether or not you can become an engineer. And then this is Dan Greenstein. We can't expect students to be college ready. We need student ready colleges. I think these are just things to think about. So STARS and Allen Scholars are two, as I mentioned, either direct to college or direct to major programs that are through what we call the Pathways for Inclusive Excellence. In the 9 years I have been at the University of Washington, I think 9 different orientations of how people get into these programs, but right now they apply. I'll talk about the application process in a minute. Basically, the students get into the Allen School, but it is conditional on them completing one of these two programs. And I'll talk a little bit more about the admission in a minute. This is sort of the pathway. So they apply in the first, and then they get assigned to either STARS or the Allen Scholars. And then they get each program has a summer bridge program. Then depending on if they're in the 1 year or 2 years program, they get 1 year or 2 years of support. If they complete the program, they are admitted as a full student into the Allen School, and then they go to graduation. So anyway, I'm going to just pause for a second because who am I? I've had a long and windy road. I have two students who have been, who are Huskies. I did get my PhD from the University of Washington. I've had, as I mentioned, as Rebecca mentioned, I have time in industry. So long and windy road. They hired me specifically to help support the students in the STARS program. And in year 2, I started teaching the summer bridge for what was called Startup, now called Allen Scholars. And now in year 8, I'm an associate teaching professor. Most of my work is in this space, although I do teach an interactions programming class. I am very involved in the K-12 high school, the college and the high school and Computer Science Teachers Association. And now in year 9 as sabbatical, I've been giving these talks. This is my 10th, so hopefully I'm going to do okay. I've been doing a lot of stuff on computational fabrication. I am still very involved in CSTA, and I'm also a cat mom. All right, so this part's going to go a little fast. I really want to encourage you, if you have a question, please stop me and ask. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail about all these different parts, and then tell you a little bit about the results, and then we can kind of talk.
I have a good question.
Yes.
So these students who are admitted in the program, are they going to do 6 years of study or 4 years?
So Allen Scholars, the expectation is 4 years.
Okay.
STARS, which let's talk about that in a second, but STARS is a 5-year program. Most students actually can still complete in 4 if they're computer science, but I'll talk a little bit about why that's a 5th year and how that's handled, especially for low-income students. All right, so I mentioned students apply to the University of Washington. They check the box that they want to either be an engineer or a computer scientist. The Office of Admission makes a decision. These students are direct admit, and then there are a chunk of students that they look at based off of their holistic review. They decide, we would really like to have these students because we think they're going to be a strong contributor to our chosen field, but they need some extra support. And this is based off of the data that we've seen. And so those students are offered a space in the Allen School conditional on completing this program. And so how we determine whether they're in the 1 year or the 2 year program is right now based off of a bunch, basically 13 years of STARS data, but right now it's largely on what they've done for their math and also whether or not they've had any what we call running start or dual credit programs through the community colleges. So we look at their math placement, and if we're seeing that they need a lot of extra math support, they'll go into STARS. They'll be given an offer for STARS. And then otherwise they go into the 1 year Allen Scholars program. So what are these programs? Allen Scholars is a 1 year program. There are about 60 students per cohort. And they are all direct admit to the Allen School. The Allen Scholars components includes a summer bridge program, a seminar, supplemental workshops, which is what I teach. I also teach in the bridge course. They get an assigned academic advisor and assigned peer mentorship and also cohort meetups. and versus stars. And like I said, there are either stars A, which are Allen Scholar students, or they're the stars E students. There are 35 per cohort, but there are 2 cohorts. So it's 70 students total over 2 years. They also get a summer bridge course, a seminar, supplemental workshops, less peer mentorship, and but still that the cohort meetups. So they're still working within the cohort model, but it's a little bit more focused on supporting them academically as opposed to socially. Both programs allow the students to feel a smaller, tight-knit community in a large state institution. I like to say we're investing a small liberal arts college education into these students because we want them to be there so much. Yeah.
For the, do they pay regular tuition for the extra time?
Yeah. Although if they complete the degree, there's some guarantee of an extra scholarship or funding so that they can do the extra year. And I'm going to go into it. Most of the students who are Allen School students don't need the extra year, and there's a reason for that. Okay, I'm going to briefly talk about the bridge courses. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Allen Scholar Summer Bridge because this is the one that I helped to create. And I run it every year. I will be going back from my sabbatical early. I didn't leave my sabbatical until late because I love this program so much. We are a quarter system school, so we actually don't even start until the end of September. Summer quarter actually ends in early August. So there's this 4-week, they used to call it early fall start, now they call it summer edge time, where there are various classes that people can come onto campus. It's a beautiful time because it's very low key. It gives the students an ability to get used to campus and switching, especially if you're a rural student coming into the big city. It is free housing, free dining, and free transportation. So they get their UPass. It is a 5-credit course on their fall transcript, which is really nice because it allows them to take a lower course load in their first quarter, which is helpful. And it's 4 weeks long, 4 days a week, 5 hours a day. 3 hours of the day is the computer science, and the other part of it is the college readiness and navigation. And the students are required to live on campus, although a lot of them actually do. They go home for the weekends if they're relatively local. They basically build cohort with each other, but also with the mentors, also with the faculty. And so they get to meet. We have a faculty panel that happens. But I think that transition is like worth its weight in gold for some of those students. And if you want to see the syllabus, it's actually, you can just type in cs.washington.edu/195. And I saw you taking a picture. I can get you copies of those slides. There's a QR code. I should have mentioned that at the very beginning. Okay, this is the piece that I built. Part of it is to build foundation, but I have no idea so some of the students are coming in with 0 computer science, and some of them have been working at an internship. So we really want to be mindful of that. I do want to focus for a lot of students, they think programming is computer science. It's not. It's a tool for computer science. So I really want them to think about what is problem solving and reflection and iteration. I am very big into metacognition and reflection. We also have a whole unit on what is computer science and engineering so that they learn that it's more than just programming, but also they have to learn how to give a little talk. I think that's important. And then the first unit is actually HTML, CSS, and then we go into JavaScript. We actually try and tie in some math preparation, especially about exponentiation and base conversion as part of that. My area is human-centered design, human-computer interaction. So I really take a shift in week 3 to think about that you are not the user. How do you develop an app for a phone that other people can use with accessibility? And then I also like to get students to play with little microcontroller boards, especially some of the students are going to be computer engineers. They're going to be handling hardware. I think hardware is kind of cool. And so they play around with the little circuit playgrounds as well and do something with that. The college readiness, this is Leslie Akedem mostly runs this. She is amazing at building this 4-week transition from first creating cohort and just learning how to navigate the campus, learning about how to navigate college, how to sign up for your classes. Then there's a whole career exploration unit. This ties in really nicely with why they do the HTML and CSS, because they have a profile page that they can then use. They get a LinkedIn page, they get a profile picture. And then the last week is when it starts to get really busy on campus. That's when we really want them to root into their values. And so they do a lot of thinking about their values. How are their values and experiences and social identities going to intersect with them being a computer scientist or engineer, especially as they're going to go into these, 800-person intro classes, right? And how is that going to all affect them? STARS, I'm not going to talk about very much because I'm not involved in the summer bridge, but there are some differences. It's also 4 weeks long. Used to only be 2 weeks. They didn't find that was enough. So they recently went to a 4-week summer bridge, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. Same thing with free housing, dining, and transportation. It's a 4-credit class. Their focus is they do have some college readiness, but it's really about calculus readiness. And chemistry readiness, because that is what they're all taking that first year. I don't see the students in STARS until their second year. And so we don't even if they're STARS A, we're not doing anything with computer science for those students. We're just getting them back up to speed with respect to their math. These are some of the learning outcomes. Again, if you're interested, I'll get the slides to everybody. You can go back and look at it, but they're very similar. A little bit more academic focus, especially with the calculus and chemistry. So once they get done with their summer bridge, we enter into the first and second year support. Again, the STARS get 2 years of support. They all get supplemental. They get the academic support, but they also get supplemental workshops. And they're doing this all within their cohort. I kind of want to this is what I call the secret sauce for Allen scholars. And actually, this is also true for STARS, but slightly different. Let's talk about, I am the instructor of a supplemental course. I am developing curriculum, which I give to my teaching assistants. They also use the curriculum to work with the students. The teaching assistants are flowing information back to me, right? And I'm also delivering content to the students. Advising, on the other hand, is working with the students. They have advising meetings. They also do their seminar. And the mentors that are hired by the advising team to be Allen Scholars mentors are working with the students. They have to meet up once a quarter, and also through the group meetups. So the mentors are observing, giving information back to advising. And we have a very, very tight relationship with our advisors, who I should also say, I understand that faculty are advisors here, but we have advising staff. We have a whole suite of advising staff, most for the students who are in the major. And then there are 2 advisors that are assigned to Allen Scholars. And then there are 2 advisors that are assigned to students who used to be Allen Scholars and STARS students, right? So there's a transition there. But I think this is the whole thing about it being very tight. We have weekly meetings where we're talking about students who are doing well, students of concern, and what kind of things, for instance, if there is a student who is struggling in some way in their personal life, that's going to necessarily affect what we see in the classroom. And if we're seeing something in the classroom, we can feed this back to advising, who can have a meeting. Yeah.
That's really amazing. I love this visual and just all the work that's going into it. How are you keeping track of all of these notes, right? So it feels like the observation, share student observation notes from the mentors to the advising. It seems like And some institutions that have like centralized, I don't know, early alerts, you know what I mean? Different
Yeah,
systems.
a lot of Google Docs.
Yeah.
So we have our own systems within our supplemental courses. I filter that down and we have a weekly meeting and we have a running agenda doc. And then advising has their own way of tracking the students quarter to quarter. And then I'll go into what happens if a student is stumbling.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of privacy concerns, like, do you communicate to the students in advance that this is a holistic support network and information will be shared, or are people trained here to understand what should be shared and shouldn't be shared?
Well, so there is the whole FERPA thing is real, but we are part of all the same team. And so because it's part of the program, it's kind of covered under that for that. We do talk to the teaching assistants about being very careful with the student information. And especially when I would have students, I was teaching a separate STARS class and an Allen Scholars class, but because we were teaching the same thing, I would have one big TA meeting. And so we had to have a special conversation with the students about like, this is a TA team. So you're going to be hearing things. And the students, I think, understand this because when Leslie, I haven't been as involved lately with Leslie hosts information sessions for the Allen Scholars. And I believe they talk about the holistic nature of it. And then these are the things that you have to do. And there's going to be communication. They kind of also know it because I'm always around and I'm always talking to Leslie. Yeah, we haven't seemed to have any problem with the flow of information or students. In fact, I think sometimes the students feel a little relieved that they don't have to hold the burden on their own. Yeah.
So what is the ratio of all the staff to students? Because it seems to be there's a lot of mentoring.
Yes.
I just want to get a sense.
And I was going to show this when I talk about the class that I teach, the mentors to the through the summer bridge, it's about 8-1 for the advising side. We did a special deal because we've been having trouble financially with TA. We've had to lower our TA pool. We've reduced the hours that the TAs actually work for us to just the core bare minimum. The focus is on they're having these meetings with their students weekly, and I'll talk about that in a second. So it's about 4 to 6-1, somewhere in there. So the more experienced TAs, I expect them to take 5 or 6 students, and the newer TAs, I expect them to take 4. Yeah. So
the mentors also students, so they are.
Yeah. So let me get to all this because let me just talk very briefly about the intrusive advising. Literally, that's what it's called, is intrusive advising. I like to think of it as proactive advising. But basically, the Allen Scholars advisors are assigned a main point of contact. They have quarterly meetings with their assigned advisor to discuss academic and personal and professional goals. Where it gets different, and this is true with both Allen Scholars and STARS, where it differs is what happens when a student does not make academic progress. And I can talk a little bit about that. We have different levels. It's like warning 1, warning 2, and then, they're asked to leave the program, but then they can come back. If they're put on warning, for Allen Scholars, they have to meet weekly with their advisor. For STARS, they meet 2 to 3 times a quarter. Again, quarters are 10 weeks, so they're still meeting somewhere between 2 and 3 times for the quarter. If they go up in a level, they actually have to meet biweekly, so every other week. So it's somewhere between 2 and 5 times a quarter, depending on where they are. The students also who are admitted through this pathway get an assigned advisor through the university, through the Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity. But most of them don't actually use that at all. They really focus on either the STARS or the Allen Scholars. Peer mentorship, again, this is sort of the advising side of things and the 8-1 that we were just talking about. The Allen Scholars get a 1-to-1 meeting once a quarter with these students who are former Allen Scholars students. And they have been trained. This is part of what happens August. They come in, they get training. Leslie has a very regimented training scheme. And so they meet with the students once a quarter or more if the student is interested. The students go to a quarterly meetup for social events. The students in the STARS program usually only get peer mentorship through engineering peer mentors who are hired through the STARS from the STARS program. So like engineering as a whole has this EPE, and then there are STARS EPEs. Mostly if the students are starting to stumble, then they get extra tutoring and studying and test taking through 90-minute tutoring sessions. And those might be one-to-one or 1-to-3 or something like that. Okay, this is the piece that, these are the seminars that the advising staff run, mostly about college and university life and metacognitive strategy. They're very similar. One of the things I know that they do in Allen Scholars is they might spend 30 minutes or so on the topic, and then they get the students together in groups based on, say, their math. This week, you're going to spend an hour studying math. Go into your corners based off, okay, you're in Calc 1, you're in Calc 2. Some weeks it's actually computer science, depending on where they are. Yeah. This is the piece that I'm very involved in, is the supplemental courses and workshops. Allen Scholars students by default only get computer science supplemental workshops. And if they start to stumble, if they're on academic warning, they might get help with a math workshop through the College of Engineering. STARS, basically they start with a mathematic problem solving for engineers. They get a chemistry one, an engineering problem solving. These are all stuff they take on top of their classes, their regular classes through the first year. I don't see them until the second year as part of the computer science supplemental workshops. So just taking a step back and giving a little bit of background, we have a 3-quarter introductory sequence. That's a full year. It used to be only 2 quarters. It was way too intense for a lot of students who were coming in with zero background. What we were finding was too many students were going into the intro class, sort of making it a little bit toxic. So we've given more entry points now. If you have zero programming experience, you're expected to go into 121. If you've had some experience, even not in Java, you can go into 122. And then if you've had sort of basic use of data structures and object-oriented programming, you'll go into 123, which I call baby data structures, which is linked lists and trees and recursion and inheritance. All of the students in the Pathways for Inclusive Excellence have to take 123, even if they have taken the equivalent 143 at a community college. Turns out they can still get credit for 123. This gives them a better entry point to the upper division classes. Most of the STAR students all start in 121 in the fall. And so they go 121, 122, 123. But the Allen Scholars can come in at any of the different points. So in the fall, we technically have 4 classes if all of them are running. In the winter, there are 3 classes. And in the spring, there are 2, which is STARS and Allen Scholars, both all taking 123. So these supplemental workshops that I actually teach, the students are required to take a supplemental workshop alongside with their 122X class. So if they're taking, say, they're an Allen Scholars student and they're taking 121, they're in 197W, right? And again, cohort based. We're very, very clear this is not a space to get help on 122X assignments. We teach them how to practice doing extra work. They basically get 2 extra credits worth of studying time or 6 extra hours. They get credit for that time. We give them test taking strategies. We give them a lot of ways of doing self-evaluation about how they're doing. Okay, I really want to plow through a little bit more, and then we'll get to some results and discussion. The structure is that they have a 2-hour workshop. And I was telling Rebecca, a lot of this has shifted to sort of oral understanding of knowledge and being able to discuss. I'll show a picture in a second of the students in the classroom. I think that's really exciting. But they also do like mock exams. If we give them weekly quizzes, and if they don't get satisfactory progress on the quiz, they can do quiz corrections, which means they have to do the corrections however they want to, but they have to come talk to me and discuss what didn't they understand before? How did they get to understanding? And like, what if I do this to this problem, right? So I'm seeing whether or not they now have adequate understanding. They also do small group presentation problems and get feedback. And the way I try and tell it to the students is like, they're going to have to go into industry and they're going to have conversations, whether to get the job or to have a conversation with peers. So this is a really good way of starting to practice that. The thing that the students say over and over is the most, the best part of this, and this is the reason why we have the 1-to-4 or 1-to-6 ratio, is these 25-minute weekly check-in meetings. And this is part of the curriculum that I develop and I hand off to the TAs. Here's 25 minutes of problems. Choose your own adventure depending on, okay, you look at the pre-work that the student has done just before check-in meeting. You see where is the student understanding missing, or they're missing understanding, or they're doing well. And have a conversation with the student. What does the student say that they're feeling weak on? Here are a bunch of problems that are review. Here are a bunch of problems what they're covering this week. Here's a little bit of a teaser for next week so that you're ready for next week. Plus, it's a good time for the students to get a little bit more mentorship, more on the academic side. So this is like in some universities, a few years ago, I was able to do 1-hour check-in meetings, and those were amazing. We've really had to change things over the years to be 20, just to save some money. But the students are in the space. It's a big space where the students are meeting with their TAs, and then they can go off and work in like alone or in small groups on other pre-work problems, or they can work on their 1-to-X assignments. So this is an example of what board work looks like. So they come in every day, they do some sort of warm up, they can do it independently or they can do it in groups. And then usually we give a couple of board work problems. I'll go around and I'll hand the whiteboard markers to certain people. I'll sometimes let them choose their groups, and sometimes I choose them for them. In some cases, I'm very specific about who I give that marker to. And then I tell the students, kind of like pair programming, switch. Right? Because I want to make sure that we're hearing a lot of voices. I do have at least one TA in the classroom. They are also walking around, making sure that we're clearing up misconceptions. And sometimes we jigsaw, like group 1 is doing problem 1, group 2, and then they share with each other. So I think this is one of the things that it's so valuable for these students. And it just makes the classroom very active. The grading is, just know that it's very lightweight. We're using mastery or proficiency-based grading. They just have to do enough in each bucket. If they do enough in each bucket, they're guaranteed a pass. I want it to really be about them wanting to learn how to learn. Occasionally we have students who, well, I'll talk about that in a second. One of the struggles. So let me just talk very briefly about the students have to meet certain program expectations. They have to understand that they have to put work into this. And they also have to make academic expectations. So academically, STARS versus Allen Scholars are a little bit different. STARS students have to keep, we're on a 40-point scale. So 4.0, 0.0 to 4.0. I usually have to explain that. So 2.0 is about a C. They have to maintain a satisfactory grade, C or better, in all of their classes, including their summer bridge class. They have to get credit in all of their credit, no credit classes. And then they have to maintain a 2.0 average over all of their engineering. Allen Scholars is a little bit weaker than that. They still have to get 2.0 or better in their summer bridge. They have to get credit for all of the seminars that they take. They have to earn a satisfactory grade in at least 4 of the specified college courses. So it's a little bit weaker than the College of Engineering, but the College of Engineering has, I think, more prereqs especially for some of the engineering degrees. Let's say they actually make all of their academic expectations. They get to graduate. This is the piece that we were talking about, 4 versus 5 years. Allen Scholars students are only in the program for 1 year. If they have not made academic progress after the first 3 quarters. They are given 1 more quarter to graduate from the Allen Scholars Program with support. For the STARS student, they're given 2 years. Now, the interesting thing about computer science is that for our transfer pathway, in other words, we're getting students from community colleges, which I think is a very, very rich pathway. We guarantee that students can still graduate in 2 years with their upper division courses. If you think about it, STARS is almost like they're doing a community college. They're getting their community college prereqs out of the way in 2 years. They can still graduate with an Allen School degree in 2 years if they want to. A lot of students don't want to. They try and get some sort of internship. They might take the internship over fall quarter. Some of them are using the opportunity to do study abroad, which I think is really fantastic for some of these students. And so they might take 4.5 years or, basically 4 years and 2 quarters before they actually graduate. They also get some additional support both through the university, like the Brotherhood and Sisterhood Initiative, CAMP, which was disbanded, but TRIO. And then I mentioned that there are other advisors that have been trained to work with these students once they transition out of Allen Scholars and STARS. But the other thing that we did was we created an optional mathematics for computation workshop. We've got students who have struggled with math and have a lot of feelings about math. When they go into our discrete math class, we can actually support them with a 1-credit course that combines Allen Scholars, STARS, and those transfer students as a nice cohort. And they can get extra support and learn that there are study groups within, how to build study groups for these upper division classes. But that's the only upper division class that we actually provide support for. A lot of students are like, why can't we have one for this class or this class? We'd love to, we just don't have the support. Okay, a couple of bits of recent results, but first, 2 questions. I threw a lot of stuff at you. First of all, what was the national percentage of students who intend to study engineering actually get a degree?
30 and 55.
30 and 55. 30 for 4 years, 6 years was 55. Nice memory. About what percentage was it for UW? 50. What was it for first gen low income and students from 2025? Gosh, you get people who have sort of a mathematical focus in the room, and there you go. So we like numbers. Numbers are easy. People are hard, right? This is the recent program data from Allen Scholars and STARS. There is going to actually be a paper in ASCE that is being published on STARS. This is the graduation date so far through cohorts 1 through 11. We are on cohort 13 this year. 352 are served. We have like an 82% retention rate, and that's just through STARS. That doesn't mean the retention rate for the University of Washington, but the graduation rate for UW Seattle, in other words, students who intended engineering at University of Washington, Seattle, in 6 years, there's 82%, and STARS is 85%. So we're even doing better than the general population of the students. The reason why there's no 4-year data is because technically it's a 5-year program, just FYI. But again, there are students who finish it. Allen Scholars, this is going to be the first year that we get some graduates because our first cohort was 2022. And so we've had 96% have successfully completed their transition into the Allen School. We're waiting for the data on like how many people are actually going to graduate. But 88% are first gen and low income, or 65% are low income. And if you compare that to Allen School demographics, it's 26 and 18%. So very, very high percentage of first gen and low income students. But the thing that I think about is the close relationship to the advisors, the close relationship to peers, both through, and then the mentors and the check-in meetings, right? The TA connections. The courses have a lower enrollment than typical college courses. I generally see some of the students for a full year, especially the STARS students. I can write a really good letter of recommendation. And for some of these students who go into the upper division classes and they're very, very reticent to talk, in those big classes, this can be very, very helpful to them. In general, students are feeling like they get the support of a small liberal arts college and a large state R1 institution. We are investing a lot of money into them. The North Star is that students don't have to added cognitive overhead of navigating support because it's built in. And there's like a ton of feedback from the classes about building the personal relationships with the instructors, not feeling discomfort. I just want to point out from this middle one, a lot of my students English is not their first language.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're really working with some of the students who are struggling with reading the specification. We have large specifications and large, think about one of our exams. It could be very, very word heavy. And for a student who has only just recently come to the United States in middle or high school, that might be actually really difficult. But, here's a student who thinks he understands, and now he's seeing other people who are struggling with it. I also ask, what are students, at the end, it's like, what would you like to tell past you, for instance? Do the work, it's worth it. It's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. Make sure you have an understanding because it'll snowball, basically. Do not be afraid of failure. Do not be afraid of passing every test case. Experience goes a long way. Know that you have multiple resources to take advantage. Again, peer-to-peer, not necessarily a TA, but listen to your former self, right? But I like this one. You got this. Don't stress. Don't forget to take breaks and have a nice treat, right? I think those are really important. There are a lot of student frustrations. They don't see the value of the class. Some of the students are coming in from these small schools and they were the top of their class. Why do I need this? It's kind of paternalistic. There is a little bit of it's a conditional admit, so there's a little bit of uncertainty there. If they don't finish this program, are they really now? They still can apply if they don't finish the Allen School, but they're applying with the general population and their grades are generally not good enough to get in that way. They feel like a diversity acceptance. They also feel like, especially if they're starting in 121, that's kind of easy. And they don't really understand the value of all this extra support until they get to the third quarter. And they're like, wait, what's going on here? And there's not a lot that we've been able to really, other than the cohort, the peer mentorship part of this can help mitigate some of it. But there are some students that are kind of a little tough nut to crack kind of thing. It's also really hard as a staff person to, I have to track two classes. Like if somebody in 1-2X changes their curriculum, I suddenly have to make a change. Otherwise, the students are confused in my class and I've done more harm than good. And it is really hard for the students to get excited about a supplemental class when they're worried about the one that's going to give them actual grade as opposed to credit, no credit. There are a lot of students who really appreciate it, though, especially towards the end of that third quarter. They suddenly realize, oh, okay. But it takes a while and it can get disheartening for the TAs who are like trying to provide the support. Like I'm resilient. I've been doing this for 9 years, but like a TA who's only in their first year, especially that first quarter, it can be really tough. So we have to do a lot of peer mentorship for the TAs as well. And yet we get but what I'm seeing is a lot of these students who never used to get involved in our community are suddenly getting involved in the community. We've had students create a bunch of different registered student organizations through the Allen School for First Gen and minorities, an association for computing education. I love to see that. And other Web Impact does websites for nonprofits. And then I've got like on the next couple of slides, I just love to highlight Leisha. I just got to meet one of Leisha's teachers for inspirational teachers. She saw this teacher and she just like lit up. This was a high school teacher who came in from Yakima. Remember that little blob over the south middle of he drove 3 hours to come see her for an inspirational teacher celebration. But she's just been amazing as both a 197 TA, but also getting really involved in the community. And then just more and more students who have gotten involved in the community. Elena, who actually decided to apply for a job in Stockholm, Sweden. Would have never expected this to be a student. And Guadalupe, who I think she's graduating this year. I built strong relationships with my academic advisors, professors, gained valuable skills, and was encouraged to excel. Without it, the beginning of my college experience would have been very different. And she's been, a lot of these talk about giving back to their community as well. She's a lead ambassador for the Allen School and goes out and does outreach events. Again, I'm not going to go through, this is like, we constantly have to change things. I'm going to keep doing oral assessments. I've been giving this talk at a bunch of places. Again, I want to really thank you. And I wanted to just stop. Oh, one other thing. This isn't about me. This is about all the collaborators, Leslie and Chloe, who primarily run the Allen Scholars, and then Allie and Laura, who do the stars. But I really kind of want to end with the open questions, and we have a few minutes to kind of chat about it. And if folks need to leave, please feel free. Yeah.
Thank you.
So much.
Yeah, great. So we can open it to questions. Go ahead.
It's not super expensive, right?
Yeah. Why, yes. Oh, wait, before I get to that, if you want to take a quick picture of the slides, there's the QR code, should take you. I have made a couple of changes, but I can also send them to you and then you can share them out.
Posting the video on the CS YouTube channel as well.
Okay. And then, here's personnel.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the budget information that I got from Allie and Chloe. So remember that STARS is 70 students, 2 cohorts. So cohort 12 and 13 right now. And then Allen Scholars. And how we started this is like STARS started as an STEM grant. It was there were 5 institutions that did this sort of red shirt program type thing based off of the gold shirt program at Boulder. Allen Scholars, we got funding from a full philanthropic funding. And then in both cases, we were to sort of prove the model. That allowed us to get the state to put in a proviso. So now we get funding through the university system, but we have to constantly, it's like every year, it's like, can we have some budget, or every 2 years or whatever. And sometimes they're like, oh, we'll give money to Allen Scholars, so STARS is screwed, and vice versa, because we're kind of competing for those same pools of money. So pricey.
Yeah.
That's why I say we're investing in small liberal arts education into these students.
Yeah, we should probably think of something like this for, like, at least in our community here, because we do have outreach programs, but they're not like this, let's put it that way. So
yeah, and remember, in terms of outreach, we can't do any direct outreach. Allen Scholars or Allen School does outreach we target certain schools that we really would like to bring students in from those schools, and we work with them in a partnership. We say, hey, Allen School's a place for you, so that they'll just check the box that they want to be an Allen School student. The admission pathway then says, hey, you're into Allen School based off of this PI pathway. And then after admissions, then we do even more outreach saying, this is what you're going to get, and why you should come. So when I have a student who's at Franklin High School, which is one of the inner city schools in Seattle, majority free and reduced lunch, we can get more of the students from that. We work. The other thing that I've been doing is I do college in the high school. And so, for instance, I have a really good working relationship with the CS teacher at Franklin. And that can also help, is if I can get more of those classrooms to be dual credit.
We'll be done before 1. It's not noon.
No, I meant noon.
Oh, I thought we had to move until a little after.
Do you have it booked?
I thought so,
Okay, yeah, that's good to know.
but we'll be done soon.
Okay.
Yeah, just
All right, so I'm
discussion.
gonna just leave these.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, things that I've been noticing as I've been going around. So I talked at Cornell, I talked at USC. First of all, semester schools, it's different. You don't really, having a summer bridge is a little bit more complicated because you're asking a student to give up half their summer, and some of these students need to work, right? Like that's going to help them. So and the other thing is that, as you were saying, most of your students are coming in, or a large percentage of your students are coming in with AP credit, right? They're a little bit more academically ready just by nature of them getting into this school. But then what happens when you see a student who's struggling? How can you provide support then? But also, how do you provide support for cohort? How do you build cohort for students who are first generation and low income, so they don't feel othered, but that they can find community? And I think there's a piece of that. I know that UCSD is doing this really cool thing with the PACE program, because also students are not coming in affiliated. So they have basically, it's open to everybody, but they get the mentors who are helping to run, the undergraduate mentors who are helping to run the PACE program there are low-income first-generation students who can help support the students who are opting in.
Well, other option would be to sort of address the high school level itself, which means that you can't do it like in a rural area because you can't send faculty there, I guess.
Right.
But in an urban area, you could do more like, if you go to an inner city school, you can kind of sort of maybe show AP pathways and have people teaching there or guiding or whatever. And, it's hard though, but, and it needs money.
We've had a lot of luck as the Allen School. Our ACM chapter, which we call Com Squared, they partner with Seattle Public Schools to have students go for CS Ed Week to various schools in Seattle, middle high school, and have CS students go and help teachers with a CS Ed Week event. And we've only done that a couple of years, and that's been super successful. Because the students who get involved in outreach, they really want to go see the students. And it's nice because it's not so great because it's right around the finals week for us, but it's nice because that they're local and and then we also encourage students to go back to go back to their high school when they're over break or something. It's different. You all are accepting students from all over the country and all over the world. I think it's interesting to think about.
I think our students are mostly, they are, we have a pretty reasonable first generation student population, but they are probably coming with AP credits, and even though they're first generation, and I don't think we are addressing people who don't have the same access to these things.
I had a friend of mine who got a PhD ultimately, who was talking about her experience as a first gen student, showing up and looking around, and everybody has notebooks and pencils. Like, she didn't even know that that's what she should have done. And like those kind of little subtle things that we just my parents taught me. Yeah. And I think about what are those experiences, especially for a student who's just recently come to the US from someplace else and has not had the same privileges. But thinking about that.
We started a conversation we didn't finish before, which maybe I think is useful to have here. So, we have been talking about how we've noticed that, because we have all kinds of support for different academic and community here as well, but students seem to be taking less advantage of them.
Yes.
And so I wonder if you're finding, because those check-ins you have are required, are you still seeing participation?
Yep. We do have some students who just randomly don't show. The expectation is that they are supposed to get in touch with the TA and tell them and it is an additional concern that we tell the advisors if a student is a no call, no show and doesn't show up for their check-in. We do allow one remote check-in a quarter with prior approval from the TA, and it's gotta be 20, like some number of hours in advance. On the option, because we really want to make sure that a student who wants to be engaged and is like sick or some family thing has come up, if they still want that 20-minute, but I've limited it to 1/4, so 10%. They have to attend. So all the participation is in a bucket, which includes being in the classroom and participating, and also participating in their weekly check-ins. But they have to attend at least, I think, 7 or 8. So they prioritize that.
Yeah.
They are not necessarily the most engaged in their study time, but it's the same thing for the study hall as well. They have to show up for 8 of them to get credit for the class. Yeah, it was really great to meet you.
So let's end there.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Lauren.